Welcome to another deep dive. And today we're diving into some idioms and vocabulary that you've been wanting to explore.
Oh, this will be fun.
Yeah. And, it's funny how often we use these phrases without really thinking about where they come from or even, the deeper meanings behind them. Like, for instance, weather the storm. You
Ugh.
mentioned you've been feeling a bit overwhelmed with a project at work.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're a ship just battling a raging storm.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this idiom captures, isn't it?
It really is. And it's so fascinating how this idiom, links back to a time when sailing was incredibly dangerous. Like, those sailors had to be so resilient.
Resourceful.
Yeah, resourceful. And they had to be so focused on navigating through those really treacherous waters.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate the true meaning of resilience, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And I love the example sentence, from one of your sources. Despite the economic downturn, the small business managed to weather the storm and come out stronger on the other side.
That's a great example.
It's a great reminder that even in the, toughest of times, we have the strength to persevere and even emerge stronger.
Exactly. And, it's not just about surviving the storm. It's about using those challenges as opportunities to, learn and adapt and grow.
Yeah.
What stands out to you about this idiom?
I think for me, it's the emphasis on patience and steady progress. It's not about finding a quick fix. It's about weathering those challenges and coming out on top. Kind of like how those sailors had to focus on keeping the ship afloat one wave at a
I
time.
love that. That's a great way to put it. And it reminds me of another idiom you shared that I think speaks to this idea of strategy and preparedness. Ace up your sleeve.
Ah, yes, that hidden advantage. I've always been so fascinated by card games
Mm.
and the element of surprise they bring.
Well, this idiom has its roots in the world of poker, where having an ace hidden away could mean the difference between winning and losing.
Oh, for sure.
It's about having that secret weapon or strategy that you can reveal at the right moment to gain an advantage.
Right. I like that. In that example from your source, despite her calm demeanor in the negotiation, Jane had an ace up her sleeve that clinched the deal for her company.
That's a good one.
She was prepared, strategic, and ready to make her move when the time was right.
Exactly. It's a great reminder that sometimes a little bit of planning and strategic thinking can give you that extra edge. It's almost like having a secret superpower, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It makes you think about what your own personal aces are. What are those hidden talents or strengths that you can leverage in different situations?
I love that. That's a great question for our listeners to ponder. What do you think? What are your aces and how can you use them strategically?
I like that. And, speaking of personal growth and development,
Yeah.
one of your sources mentioned this idea of taking things up a notch, which I think ties in nicely here.
Yeah, definitely. Taking it up a notch is all about enhancing, improving, or intensifying something. It could be your skills, your efforts, even your enjoyment of something.
Yeah.
It's about pushing yourself to that next level.
I like to think of it as those incremental steps on a ladder, each rung representing a higher level of achievement, like in that example from your source. The chef took her cooking up a notch by adding exotic spices and flavors that left everyone in awe.
Ooh, I like that one.
She didn't just settle for good, she wanted to make it exceptional.
And she did it by pushing her boundaries and exploring new possibilities. It reminds us that growth often happens when we step outside of our comfort zones and challenge ourselves to do things differently.
Yeah, it's almost like a personal challenge, isn't it? What could you take up a notch in your own life? Maybe it's that project you've been working on or a skill you've been wanting to improve.
It's a great reminder that even small improvements, when done consistently, can lead to significant progress over time.
And, as we're talking about personal preferences and passions, one word that keeps coming to mind from your source material is penchant.
Ah, penchant. Such a lovely word, isn't it? It captures that feeling of having a strong liking or inclination towards something.
It's almost like a gentle pull towards something you genuinely enjoy.
Exactly, and the word itself comes from the French verb pécher, meaning to lean or to incline, which perfectly illustrates that feeling of being drawn to something you love.
Like in that example, Rachel have a penchant for vintage clothing, often spending weekends scouring local thrift shops.
Such a good example.
It's not just a hobby for her, it's a passion. And that passion shines through in her dedication to finding those unique pieces.
It really does.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are our own penchants? What are those things that spark our curiosity and make us feel truly alive?
That's a wonderful question to reflect on. What are those things you find yourself naturally drawn to? And how do they enrich your life?
It's amazing how these idioms and words can reveal so much about ourselves and our interests. Like that phrase, have all your ducks in a row, which you mentioned in your notes. It makes me think of you Organized and meticulous. Always planning ahead, making sure everything's in its place.
It's true. I do appreciate a good sense of order. And this idiom perfectly captures that feeling of being prepared and having everything in its place before starting a project or a task. Though it's interesting, the origin of this phrase is actually a bit unclear. There isn't a definitive historical event or anecdote that explains it.
Really?
Yeah,
But the imagery is so vivid. Those little ducklings following their mother in a perfectly straight line.
exactly. The visual is what makes it so memorable and relatable, and it highlights the importance of preparation and planning, especially when tackling complex projects.
Like in that example you shared. Before launching their new product, the team worked tirelessly to have all their ducks in a row, ensuring a smooth and successful release.
Yeah, they didn't leave anything to chance. They anticipated potential challenges, gathered the necessary resources, and coordinated their efforts to ensure a successful outcome.
It's a great reminder that sometimes a little bit of upfront effort can save a lot of headaches down the road.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding problems, it's about setting yourself up for success by creating a solid foundation. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a valuable reminder for me to slow down and make sure I have everything I need before diving headfirst into something new. Speaking of diving in, the next idiom on our list, head down, seems like a complete contrast.
Yeah, it does. Head down is all about intense focus and concentration, often to the exclusion of everything else.
Like you're so engrossed in a task that you become oblivious to your surroundings.
Exactly. And it's often used in a work context to describe someone who's diligently working on a project, unfazed by distractions.
Your example really captures this feeling. With deadlines looming, the team had their heads down working late into the night to complete the project. You can almost feel the intensity of their focus, can't you?
Yeah, it's like they've created a bubble of concentration, shutting out everything but the task at hand. It makes you wonder, in today's hyper-connected world, how can we create those pockets of focused time for ourselves?
That's a great question. Maybe it's about setting boundaries, turning off notifications, or finding a quiet space where we can truly immerse ourselves in our work.
It's about finding what works for you and creating an environment that fosters deep concentration. But sometimes, even with the best intentions, we hit roadblocks. And that's where those light bulb moments come in, those flashes of inspiration that can help us break through those challenges.
Ah, yes. That sudden spark of insight like a light bulb illuminating a dark room. You mentioned one of your sources talked about this feeling in the context of problem solving.
Yeah, it's those moments when the solution to a problem suddenly becomes clear. Often after a period of struggle or frustration, it's like all the pieces of the puzzle suddenly fall into place.
Like in this example. After days of struggling with the design, the architect had a light bulb moment and came up with a brilliant solution that transformed the entire project. It's amazing how those sudden insights can completely change the course of our work or even our lives.
And it's not just about solving problems. It's about those creative breakthroughs, those moments of inspiration that lead to innovation and new ideas.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what triggers those light bulb moments? Is it pure chance, or can we cultivate those moments of inspiration?
That's a fascinating question. Some believe those moments come when we least expect them, while others argue we can prime ourselves for inspiration by exposing ourselves to new ideas, experiences, and perspectives. What do you think?
I think there's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Sometimes those ideas just hit you out of nowhere, while other times they emerge from a period of deep thought and exploration.
It's a beautiful mystery, isn't it? And it ties in nicely with the next word on our list, giddy, which you highlighted in your source material.
Oh, giddy. It's such a joyful word, capturing that feeling of pure delight and excitement.
It's that lighthearted exhilaration, almost like you're floating on air.
You mentioned this word in the context of children experiencing something exciting, didn't you?
Yes, it's often associated with children, like in your example. The children were giddy with excitement as they waited for the parade to begin. But it's not limited to children. We can all experience those moments of pure joy and anticipation, no matter our age.
Absolutely. It can be anything from a simple pleasure to a major life event. It's about embracing that childlike wonder and allowing ourselves to feel that pure, unadulterated joy.
Exactly. And what's beautiful about this word is that it reminds us to find those moments of joy in the everyday, to appreciate the little things that bring us happiness. What are some things that make you feel giddy?
Oh, so many things. Discovering a new book by my favorite author, exploring a new city, or even just spending time with loved ones. Those are the moments that make me feel truly giddy.
Those are wonderful examples. It's about finding those things that light you up from the inside. and savoring those moments of pure joy.
As much as we, love those moments of pure joy and excitement, it's
Mhm.
also important to recognize the value of slowing down and taking a break.
Oh, absolutely. And that brings us to another word from your source material that I think resonates perfectly with this idea: downtime.
Yes, downtime. Essential, isn't it? It's about giving ourselves